I'm Isabella, age 37, and my husband James holds an ordinary office job while I work as a nurse. Our life together doesn't include children, so my evenings after work are usually quite relaxed. I work at a clinic that doesn't require night shifts, affording me ample free time. Upon arriving home, I engage in cleaning, laundry, and preparing dinner. Around 7 p.m., Lucas arrives home, just in time for dinner. We share an aperitif while venting about our respective workdays and then proceed to have dinner, as we had discussed earlier. Lucas takes charge of dishwashing, while I assist by drying and putting them away. We continue our conversation as we work together. Afterward, we unwind, pursuing various leisure activities like working on our PCs, playing games, or browsing the internet. I may choose to read, surf the net, or check social networks. On some occasions, we enjoy watching TV together. Our daily routine flows smoothly. Over our 12-year marriage, there were moments when I felt sadness due to not having children. However, I've come to realize that growing old together in such a peaceful manner isn't so bad. I anticipated this tranquility would persist for a long time, but change arrived suddenly. It was following my return from a visit to my parents, who live far away. The moment I entered our home, something felt amiss. Though seemingly trivial, there were undeniable irregularities. The arrangement of shoes in the closet had been altered. The positioning of the living room's flowers had changed. The dishes were placed in the wrong spots. These minor discrepancies caused significant discomfort for James and me. It was particularly unsettling in my room, where cosmetic items and clothing had been subtly rearranged. James and I had separate rooms, and we seldom ventured into each other's space. Even when we did, we respected each other's belongings and never moved anything without permission. I highly doubted he would tamper with my cosmetics. I decided to inquire, "Have you been in my room?" He responded with a puzzled look, denying any involvement. Despite his demeanor, I didn't believe he was lying. While nothing appeared to be missing, it couldn't be attributed to theft, as the only noticeable change was the rearrangement of items. During this period, my parents, who live a considerable distance away, faced health challenges. My mother's health, in particular, was deteriorating, manifesting as weakness in her hips and legs. She eventually qualified for in-home caregiving services through her insurance. A caregiver visited regularly, but my mother's timidity prevented her from requesting too much assistance. However, my father, who remained in good health, faced challenges when it came to household chores due to his traditional mindset. Although he made earnest efforts, it would take some time for him to effectively assist my mother. In response, I made regular visits to their home to lend a helping hand and take on some of the housework. Despite the considerable distance, my father never once complained about my extended stays. He graciously saw me off without a single word of protest. Over time, I grew accustomed to this routine, and the disconcerting feeling I had experienced on that particular day lingered. Each time I returned from spending a few days at my parents' house and came back home, I couldn't help but sense a peculiar shift in the atmosphere. Typically, Lucas's involvement in household tasks was minimal, primarily limited to washing dishes after dinner. However, since that day, it appeared that he had taken on additional responsibilities, such as laundry and cleaning while I was away. Although he claimed, "Well, I do my fair share," I became skeptical when I asked him to refill the detergent due to running low. To my surprise, he seemed perplexed and inquired about the detergent's whereabouts, even though he was supposedly handling his own laundry. This raised questions. How could he not know where the detergent was kept? I pondered the possibility that he was washing clothes with only water, but the lingering scent of fabric softeners told a different story. Notably, the fabric softener was stored in the same location as the detergent, making his response an obvious falsehood. While concrete evidence eluded me, his behavior had begun to arouse suspicion. After each visit to my parents' home and return, it felt as though I were playing a game of spot the difference within our house. As I contemplated the idea of installing a hidden camera, Lucas's attitude underwent a noticeable transformation. Initially, he ceased participating in household chores altogether, refusing even to wash dishes after dinner. His explanation was that he was busy, yet in reality, he remained idle, engrossed in his phone. When I implored him for assistance, he responded curtly with, "I can't. I have something to do now," before resuming his phone-related activities. Furthermore, Lucas began returning home late, citing overtime work as the reason. On one particular occasion, when I urgently needed to speak with him, he failed to answer his phone. Left with no other option, I reluctantly contacted his office, only to discover that he had left at the usual time. Upon his return, I confronted him about the inconsistency, prompting him to confess that he had fabricated a story about a client meeting because he thought I was in a bad mood. "It's your fault," he uttered with a disapproving click of his tongue, somehow managing to cast me as the antagonist in the situation. Following that day, he frequently claimed he was meeting acquaintances for drinks and would return home late at night. On occasion, he even bypassed our home entirely, heading directly to the office. Furthermore, his business trips became more frequent. I remained skeptical about the truth of his words. Our home saw significantly less of his presence, our conversations became scarce, and an icy chill permeated the once warm atmosphere. My attempts to engage in conversation and rectify the situation were met with cold indifference. "I can't talk right now, I'm busy. We'll talk later." He brushed me off, and days passed without us exchanging a single word. One day, I decided to make another attempt. "You know, today I went to the playground," I ventured. "A playground?" he retorted, his tone laced with disapproval. "Why would you go there? It's not a place for a childless woman like you, is it?" I responded defensively. "Why do you have to speak like that? It's the playground in the park I usually walk by. Many people use the park for a stroll, even without children." He continued to press, insinuating that I was taking things too lightly while he toiled away at work. "It's just a metaphor, and I was just passing through," I explained. His response was terse. "Shut up, that's enough." He dismissed my objection and retreated to his room, leaving me bewildered by his comment. We had previously discussed as a couple that we would allow nature to take its course, acknowledging that if we couldn't have a child, there was little we could do. However, he had grown completely distant, leaving me to grapple with my feelings alone. Then, one fateful day, my world was turned upside down. My routine at the clinic continued as usual. I worked in the OB/GYN department of a private hospital, where nearly all our patients were women. A young woman, a first-time visitor, hurriedly approached me in the waiting room. It was evident she had recently discovered her pregnancy. I was about to offer advice on the importance of early pregnancy care when she broke into a radiant smile and locked eyes with me. To my astonishment, she addressed me by name. While all the staff members wore name tags on their chests, I had inadvertently left mine in my pocket. Perplexed, I inquired how she knew my name. She simply smiled and revealed, "I'm pregnant. Congratulations." I offered my best wishes, to which she responded, "Thank you. By the way, the father of the child is your husband." "I beg your pardon?" I stammered in disbelief. "I'm pregnant with Benjamin's child. Please leave him, okay?" Her words were so abrupt that they left me utterly speechless, and before I could utter another word, she settled the bill and hastily departed. I was left utterly flabbergasted by the shocking encounter. Upon returning home that day, I confronted James, who typically arrived home punctually. "A girl came to my workplace today, claiming she's pregnant with your child," I began. His response was a bewildered, "Huh? What the hell? What are you talking about?" I pressed on, seeking answers. "That's exactly my question. Are you having an affair? Are you accusing me? Do you have any proof? You're letting her into my room, aren't you?" I had been sensing something amiss each time I returned from my parents' house, but did that necessarily equate to infidelity? I continued, my voice laden with suspicion. "The patient who came in today knew my name. She said she was pregnant with your child. When the child is born, we can do a DNA test. I'm sure it will provide a very compelling result." James fell into an uneasy silence before finally letting out a deep sigh. I'm busted," he admitted begrudgingly. "So you admit it?" I demanded. "Okay, yes, I've been cheating on you. Do you have a problem with it?" His defiant response shattered my composure, making me feel as if my world was unraveling. "Do I have a problem? Of course I do. It's your fault that I cheated on you in the first place," I retorted, my emotions running high. "What the hell? What do you mean? You were barren. You work in OB/GYN. Why didn't you at least get fertility treatment?" We decided together to let nature take its course. "Even if that's the case, it's not my fault. It's you who can't get pregnant. You might be the reason why we can't have kids. It's possible that my girlfriend is pregnant now," he callously remarked. His hurtful words pierced my heart, and I erupted into tears as we argued bitterly. "In any case, I'm divorcing you. Get out of my house ASAP. I'll at least give you alimony," he declared before walking out, leaving me with no other options. I carried an immense burden of pain inside and found solace only in lying on my bed, weeping uncontrollably. The events that followed were a blur, and before I knew it, I was on a train heading back to my parents' house. Although my late-night arrival surprised them, they welcomed me with open arms, providing me with quiet solace until my tears subsided. Their unwavering empathy and love were a source of comfort, and as I shared my turmoil with them, it helped me process my emotions. By the time I finished recounting the story, I felt a profound sense of relief. My parents offered me their advice, encouraging me to do what made the most sense for me, propelling me forward. A month later, I found myself sitting in a cafe with James and his girlfriend, whom I had invited to meet with me. It had been my intention to have her there anyway, so her offer saved me the trouble. Placing a file in front of them, I revealed its contents, the divorce papers and details of the alimony. Beside me sat my lawyer, ready to assist in the proceedings. "Hi, I'm Mary, pregnant with Elijah's child." The same woman who had spoken to me at the clinic introduced herself cheerfully. She appeared young and had a girlish demeanor, making me wonder if she matched Elijah's taste. In stark contrast, he sat there looking grumpy, while his girlfriend sported a wide, bright smile. Elijah wasted no time in questioning the alimony, and I couldn't help but wonder how he thought he could avoid paying it. "Why do I have to pay alimony?" he protested. "You said you would, right? I'd rather charge you for it." Despite his unapologetic attitude, I chose not to invest my energy in getting angry with someone like him. Instead, I wore an awkward smile as I presented the documents I had prepared after consulting with my lawyer. "This is the standard fee. Please pay it in a lump sum, and then I will never bother you guys again." Elijah expressed his dissatisfaction with the amount, calling me a greedy bitch. "What the hell is this amount?" he exclaimed. But I stood my ground, calmly responding, "What's wrong with it? I've quoted you a fair price." I had anticipated his objections upon seeing the amount, and I knew he would react this way. His girlfriend, Mary, chimed in, defending their position. "No, it's too much, even though I got her pregnant. We're going to have a baby. How can you treat us so awfully?" I couldn't help but find her attitude somewhat infuriating, but my laughter bubbled up, outweighing my anger. I grinned openly, unable to contain my amusement. "I know having a baby is a lot of work, but I won't consider divorce unless you agree to pay this amount. That's my condition." Elijah remained defiant. "That's insane. I've told you many times, I'm pregnant with this child. Please leave him as soon as possible." But I decided it was time to reveal the truth to Mary. "But you're the third woman, you know." Her bewildered expression spoke volumes, and I didn't miss the sight of Elijah's face turning pale. Without further delay, I presented them with several incriminating photos, saying these are pictures of his affairs. "There are 2 others beside you, James," I calmly informed them. "I hired a private detective and found out that he was having a 3-way affair." "That's a lie." Mary immediately denied it, becoming what I refer to as cheating partner number 1. I showed them the evidence, displaying pictures where James appeared affectionate with multiple women. "Look, he's lovey-dovey with you in this picture, but he's also holding hands with this woman," I pointed out, revealing the indiscretions. "Here's another picture of him, entering and leaving the motel with another woman." These were cheating partners 2 and 3, looking intimately involved with James. No matter how hard they tried to explain it away as friendship, the evidence was stacked against them. Mary's face paled in front of the incriminating photos, and James seemed as though he might be physically ill. "Elijah, what's all this?" Mary demanded an explanation. "It's not what you think," James stammered, desperately trying to justify himself. "They're just friends." I challenged his excuses. "You hold hands with your friends and go to a motel room with them. I'm just shaking hands in this one, and this is going to a motel to talk about work." He was flustered and making flimsy excuses under Mary's questioning gaze. As the tension mounted, I signaled for the people seated behind us to stand up. When they turned to look at us, Amy and Sophia exclaimed in shock. "What the hell are you guys doing here?" Amy asked in disbelief. "Oh," I called them. I replied with a mischievous smile. "What?" James was stunned, his eyes almost popping out of their sockets. "Wait, what? Are they the same people in the pictures?" Mary inquired, her confusion evident. "Yes, I invited cheating partners number 2 and 3, I confirmed with a gleeful grin, enjoying Mary's total bewilderment. "Oh my God," Mary exclaimed, realizing the depth of the situation. The detective was terrifyingly good. He checked all the backgrounds of his girlfriends. "It cost me a lot of money, but I have no regrets. I'd have to see Lucas's dumb face right in front of me now. That was enough for me." As James attempted to defend himself, his cheating partners number 2 and 3 confronted him about the lies he had told them. His face displayed a mixture of panic and confusion. "You worked overtime every day, went on frequent business trips, and went out on weekends," one of them accused. "I thought you were pretty hands-on with one partner, but I'm amazed that you had 3. It was really unexpected, and I was beyond angry and astonished," another added. James desperately denied the accusations, but the evidence was overwhelmingly against him. I banged on the table for emphasis, causing him to jerk in his seat. You were cheating on me with 3 women. That's why the alimony is set at this amount. Do you understand? All of them have admitted to having an affair with you. You can't get away with it. You will pay exactly this. James looked as pale as a ghost, drenched in cold sweat as Mary confronted him. On your true love, right? I was the only one you were serious about, wasn't I? Mary pouted, pressing him. Before he could respond with trembling lips, the other women closed in. You said you were going to marry me next year, didn't you? One of them accused. That was just 3 days ago. You were going to continue our relationship if you didn't get caught, weren't you? James stammered in response, trying to find words, but another woman chimed in. You said something similar to me too, didn't you? You were about to finalize your divorce, and we should go on a trip afterward. Were you planning to continue with them even after our child was born? Lucas was shrinking smaller and smaller as he faced the barrage of questions and accusations. Oh, well, that's... Then suddenly, the 3 women took matters into their own hands. You cheater. One of them smacked him. You piece of shit. Another woman followed suit. You traitor. Mary delivered the final blow. He was slapped beautifully 3 times in a row, and I couldn't help but laugh at the sight of his flushed cheeks. The rest of the meeting went surprisingly smoothly. Confronted by 4 women, including myself, James was in a state of despair. He readily signed the divorce papers and agreed to pay alimony. As for the 3 cheating partners, my initial intention was to seek some form of justice, but I had a change of heart. Number 2 was unaware that he was married, and number 3 believed he was on the verge of getting divorced soon. They weren't in serious relationships with James, and both of them offered profuse apologies to me. I couldn't blame them too much. I still had some reservations about Mary, but given her pregnancy, I decided not to put her under any more strain. Her unborn child was innocent, and I wanted to think about its future. The experience had left all of the women, especially Mary, with a deep distrust of men. I wondered if they would ever find happiness again, and I couldn't help but feel concerned about Mary's challenging future. She no longer wanted to marry James, but still wanted to have a baby, which would undoubtedly be a difficult path as a single parent. It would be her path to redemption, and I had come to terms with that. 6 months after my divorce was finalized, I had returned to my normal, peaceful life. I continued to work while helping my parents at home. Occasionally, I received calls from James, who had depleted his savings paying alimony and child support. He was struggling to make ends meet. At work, the rumor of his 3-timing affair had spread throughout the company, and he was viewed with dismay by his coworkers, experiencing a significant setback in his career. His parents had disowned him, leaving him to live a lonely life. Despite his endless apologies and pleas, I decided to cut off contact and blocked him, feeling refreshed afterward. I continued working at the OB/GYN clinic, where countless stories were born and unfolded. I immersed myself in my work, but a thought suddenly crossed my mind. If I ever had the chance to be with someone again in the future, I wanted to create my own story. Until then, I would continue supporting my patients.